Akira. This will just be a fun video to make. I've been straying away from anime content recently, but since we did a podcast for this on SCOOJ, I thought it'd be the perfect time to come back and make another anime video, and this is Akira, so it does get like special-ish treatment from me anyways. Akira confuses me, and I'm not sure if it was purposely confusing, or if my brain is still just not able to comprehend what's going on in here. I probably shouldn't watch Evangelion if I'm already this confused from Akira. This one is a random video, but most of the time I do polls for the bigger videos on this channel, like the one I'm working on currently for the Owl House. So subscribe and be active in those polls and join in on the fun. I know you guys like subscribing to help people out. I know you do. You're such a kind person. Haha. Akira is a popular anime film and manga created by Katsuhiro Otomo. At the time of its creation, it was the most expensive anime movie to date until like literally the next year. I really don't think I had to explain to you guys what Akira is. Most of you already know or have at least heard about it if you are an anime fan or even a film buff. Like I said, I already talked about this on SCOOJ, but I thought I'd take the opportunity to explain my thoughts on it more and try not to just look at the impact of Akira, because there's no way I can do what Super Eye Patch Wolf did. Nope, I cannot do that, so I gotta try and do things my own way, you know? You see the title, Akira still confuses me 10 years later. I want to start this off by saying one major plus about this film is the setting. In 1988, Tokyo was destroyed by either an explosion or Goku taking a shit, if you know what I'm saying. We then fast forward 30 years later to 2019, and honestly speaking, this isn't far off from how things seem nowadays. Rundown cities, abandoned buildings, anti-government groups, and the police taking extreme measures to stop them. I'd say the only thing that sets this apart from now is the futuristic vehicles like the bike that Kainet is on, or some of the cars that politicians drive. We're not at the point of computerized vehicles just yet anyways. Nothing was too confusing at first. We're looking at these kids being a part of this gang, I think they're called the Capsules, and you know, gang violence due to how society is. They're going to go over to this block to fight the clown gang, and they were all riding bikes and being violent and stuff to each other like horses jousting. Of course, we all know what happens at the end of this. Tetsuma runs into experiment 26. Is it bad that I don't remember his name, but his experiment number? Tetsuo in the experiment didn't get physically damaged, but something seems wrong with Tetsuo's head mentally. After this first act, I feel like this film is a lot more political than I remember it being, which makes sense considering what's going on in the setting and all. Too much was going on though, in my opinion. We had to spend time with Kainet and his crew, the head of the military, the science experiment people, and the spies that were sent to free the experiments or something. I just think it was a bit too much for my little brain to comprehend all at once. This gets the great honor of being one of the first major anime with social issues within it. But it's hard for political anime not to be slightly boring when giving exposition about topics that are going on within the fictional world, which is probably one of the reasons they only made it date like 30 years later and not 2,000 years later, so it could feel more real to us and we would pay more attention to it at the time. But being past that year now, the fear it was given off and portraying doesn't hold up as much to me personally. I think instead of going on beat by beat about how the story went, I want to give my personal takes on the two major characters that are at play within this story, Tetsuo and Kainet. It makes sense to talk about Kainet first because he's the titular character of the story. First and foremost, he's a badass. Mostly a show because he's a teenager, of course, but he's also the leader of the Council Gang and shows no fear when it comes to fighting for his friends, and that leads him to some weird situations within this film. In the manga, we do get to see more of his and Tetsuo's story develop, like him joining K's spy group and going on multiple missions with them, Seeing Tetsuo become the leader of said clown gang they were fighting at the beginning of this story, and kill one of the council gang members in front of Kainet instead of him finding it out later like he does in the film, so he's visibly there to see that Tetsuo is too far gone for him to try and save him like he used to do. These two have been connected since childhood, with Kainet always playing the role of the leader and savior, and I'm going to go ahead and start talking about Tetsuo now because I feel like it's very, very hard to separate them. Tetsuo doesn't appreciate or like when Kainet takes up for him and fights his battles. It makes him feel weak and like he's not manly enough to do it or anything else by himself. So once he got that ounce of power, that small opportunity, his crazy emotions and prideful mind took the better of him. He was no longer listening to any reason. He's obsessed with his power and what he can do with it. I just wish this was explored more within the film. I feel like this played like third fiddle to everything else that was going on until like the latter third or maybe even half of this, when it became the forefront of the story. Luckily, I do know it was explored more in the manga, but with it not being throughout all of the film, it risks seeming forced or thrown in. Tetsuo's journey made me believe this was going to be a tragic tale, and it was, for him anyways. He was obsessed with the power until it literally consumed him, and Akira had to stop him. Speaking of Akira, I can't end this video without talking about Akira, and it's going to be weird to discuss. Since I am aware of the manga and saw the ending of this film, I know Akira is an actual person and was also an experiment that caused the catastrophe of 1988. But before that ending, and before I was aware of the manga, I was so confused on what Akira was supposed to be. Originally, I had the theory that it was a name given to an atomic bomb. Then they had blatantly told us that it was absolute energy and the power of evolution. At that point, Akira did seem like a godly figure. It seemed like humans were trying to use that power of God in their own way. Then, after understanding it more, once they explained some more, after Tetsuo opens the container and its organs are in there, Akira was just another experiment, and these experiments were taking place to assess 100% of the human's brain, because remember that conspiracy that we can only use 10% of our brain? The whole confusion of what Akira was supposed to be was something that I couldn't look past. Thematically, it makes sense. Energy that seems like it's the will of God will be talked about and eventually praised by weirdos as if it was the actual act of God. But story-wise, in the film, because he's not dead in the manga, it seemed like the definition of Akira kept changing until the end, and the flashbacks we got where we see he was a kid who was experimented upon just like everybody else in here that has powers. The story of Akira is a confusing one, but also very straightforward. I would never say this is something to skip because of all the impact that this story has had on manga, anime, western films, cartoons, probably a lot more stuff that I can't even imagine was inspired by it. Maybe I just think I'm smarter than I am because I saw this when it came out one time on Tsunami in 2013, and almost 10 years later I thought I'd understand almost everything in this film, and I just wasn't able to understand anything and what it was trying to accomplish, and that really upsets me. I would 100% recommend this film and manga to you no matter my experiences with it. You could get something out of it. It could be your favorite thing in the world. You could help me understand it by leaving comments down below to help me get a better taste or reading on how I'm supposed to view this movie, because at this point it just feels like I have to read the manga if I want a better viewing of this story, because there's a lot of stuff that's skipped over or changed that I don't know, I just can't look past. But that's basically it. I hope you guys like this. Akira is really popular. It has a lot of fan base. It's the foundation of what anime is, of what media is. A lot of things are inspired by it. I've already said this. I've already mentioned this. And I don't know. I just hope you guys like this video. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm shitting on the film. I'm just personally confused about certain things that went on within the film. Like, I get it, but also I don't get it. And I feel like I'm confusing myself at the end of this video. So yeah, help me understand that. And with that being said, like and subscribe. I'll see each and every one of you around next time. Okay. Goodbye.